Welcome to the course on conducting company surveys, and today is the first lesson of the course. What surveys are and how to conduct them. The course has its own website. This is what it looks like at the end of survey. And this is the first lesson. In fact, we cover a lot about surveys in this course. We probably cover almost every possible type of survey here, how to design them, launch them, engage people, prepare reports, and plan actions. But today we'll focus on just one topic. We'll discuss the role of surveys in human resources work. We'll talk about what the most popular types of surveys are in general. We'll discuss automation tools and look at what market benchmarks we can rely on. If I haven't met some of you yet, my name is Mike Pritula, and as it happens, I got into surveys a very long time ago. In Alpha Bank back in 2005, I was involved in an employee survey. I analyzed the survey results in 2006, then at the end of 2006, I launched an interview questionnaire. Then, probably around 2009, I started launching full-fledged questionnaires in the company on various topics. And actually, you could say that I'm a big fan of all kinds of surveys and I love conducting them myself, and I like to look at surveys conducted by others and study their results. As a tool, as an analytical tool, I strongly believe in surveys. In their work, they rely on global best practices. And by and large, all these companies also use surveys as a tool, constantly researching something and publishing the results. I would be grateful if you could also write about yourself, your city, position, and company. For those watching on Facebook, you can also write in the comments there, please do. That's how we'll get to know each other while you're writing. I'll tell you about the diplomas. Those who complete all the homework assignments will receive diplomas, or rather, those who complete them and get high grades, grades 4 or 5, will issue diplomas. Homework assignments are checked and feedback is provided. There's always an opportunity to work, and this is a practical tool. Very important. That's what will happen with the homework. So a survey, what are company surveys? This is, first and foremost, collecting information from employees in order to make certain decisions. This is very important. It's important to understand that surveys are not just about casual inquiries. It's not just some kind of toy. It's a tool, a business tool that allows for making much higher quality decisions because these decisions are based on data, numbers, and opinions. And consequently, these decisions are more accurate. Let's move on. Surveys generally come in two types, micro and macro. Macro is when information is collected from employees, but on general issues concerning the entire company or team, overall satisfaction, engagement, loyalty, burnout, stress. And a micro survey is one that is conducted about a specific employee. Let's try to think about an exit interview questionnaire. Is it a macro or micro questionnaire? Interview questionnaire? Is this a macro questionnaire or a micro questionnaire? What do you think? Macro. Who else thinks differently? Is there anyone who thinks it's a micro questionnaire? And everyone agrees that it's macro, as suggested. Well, such a difficult question. In fact, both answers can be justified here, because on one hand, in exit interview questionnaires, we study the overall satisfaction with the company. On the other hand, in exit interview questionnaires, we inquire about the specific reason for a particular employee's departure and interview, or refer to a specific employee. So it's just ambiguous on one side macro, on the other side micro. Okay, the 360 questionnaire is a good example of a micro survey because it's sent out to gather information about a specific employee. Let's move on. What is the role of surveys in HR work? Well, I'll start by saying that HR professionals like me also love conducting surveys and do so regularly. I often ask HR professionals when they last conducted a survey, and many say it was recently, last week, last month, or last year, but they did conduct one. It's quite common for no one to conduct surveys in startup companies with novice HR professionals. That's where they're just starting to think about it. So what tasks do surveys solve in an HR professional's life? First of all, it's a diagnostic tool for many things. That is, a survey can quickly gather information from all employees about what concerns them. For example, when a company has sent people to work remotely, and wants to know how they're doing with remote work, a questionnaire can diagnose the state people are in. Next, it's the voice of the employees. Through the questionnaire, the company can learn an employee's opinion on various issues. This way, it demonstrates that the company is interested in people's opinions. Furthermore, surveys represent the wisdom of the crowd. When it comes to decision-making, and the crowd shares thoughts or votes, it can be useful in matters where it's appropriate to apply. For example, a company decides how best to handle holidays, whether to reschedule them or not. Great, the wisdom of crowds is a good way to decide. Next is the development of innovations. That is, through surveys, the company can collect ideas about improvements, work processes in the company, or some optimizations. This is a way to make decisions. For example, the company doesn't know whether to paint the walls orange or a more neutral yellow. A decision can be made by surveying people. It's gathering feedback. For example, we've held an all-hands meeting and want to know if people have a better understanding of what's happening in the company. It's monitoring what's going on. For example, we regularly launch a questionnaire about how people are doing to understand what's happening in the company. This can also be employee evaluation. For example, a 360-degree survey helps assess people's behavior. It's identifying development needs. With the help of a questionnaire, you can gather information on people's development needs. In general, it's information gathering. You can do a lot with it. You can ask people through questionnaires to indicate what they do at work and what skills and competencies are required for their job. We'll get a job profile when we process all the questionnaires from people. And this is part of HR analytics. It's practically impossible to do full HR analytics without questionnaires. That is, analytics has 3 classic tools. Well, okay, 4. The first tool is working with existing data. The second tool is questionnaires. The third is focus groups, and the fourth is individual interviews or group interviews. Questionnaires are considered one of the most effective and fastest methods of HR analytics. That is, ways of collecting data for HR analytics. These are the tasks that questionnaires solve, which is why they are really necessary and important for the work of modern HR. From a diagnostic tool perspective, questionnaires can be used to diagnose many things. The most popular areas are, of course, satisfaction, that's engagement, stress, burnout, loyalty, teamwork, departmental interaction, and employee retention. All of this allows for diagnosis to find any problems, solve them, and improve the situation. Next, the employee's voice is an opportunity to be heard and to complain, and generally allows for two-way communication, that is, to show people that the company is interested in what people think. But it's very important here that people believe in this and that something starts to be done. Because if a company launches a survey, people reported something and the company did nothing about it, then faith in such a tool will quickly disappear and people will quickly stop participating in surveys. Next, the wisdom of crowds. For example, it could be choosing a slogan. When I worked at the STB TV channel, that's how they chose the slogan for the season. It's searching for ideas to accomplish a task. Before thinking through the format of a corporate event, for example, when I worked at Wargaming, we used voting to decide which band would perform at the corporate party. Many companies choose the format of their corporate events. In another company, we let people choose whether they wanted to have the corporate event outdoors, on a boat, in the office, or somewhere else. You can gather ideas on what can be improved in the office, because people working in the office have things they want to share. Let me pause here and ask you the first question. How long ago did you conduct a survey in your company? In other words, when did you do it? Let's answer that first and then we'll move on to the second question. That is, when did your company last survey employees on any issue? 2 weeks ago. When did anyone else have a survey in their company? Hello, I just recently started working at a new company. I'm only planning to do it. Yes, by the way, that's a good case you mentioned. Indeed, surveys are a common tool for diagnostics and audits, which HR often uses when joining a new company. Excellent example. All right. Okay, thank you for your answer. Let's move on. Innovation is a way to gather ideas that can improve company efficiency and save money, often in an idea box format. That is, when people have the opportunity to submit their ideas in some form to the company. So surveys can take on very interesting forms. It's not always just a classic Google form where people log in and fill out a form. There can be very unusual solutions for surveys. This includes messenger apps like Slack. Let me show you a couple of interesting solutions. Here, for example, there's a system called PeopleForce, an HR automation system. One of the solutions is a survey. Look, I log into the system and I can't do anything until I say how I'm doing. This survey is customizable. You can set it up for once a week, twice a week, even daily, or once every 2 weeks. I answered, and the system received my first response. Here's another interesting survey method, also non-standard, and not a Google form either. There's this light bulb icon where I can submit an idea. A quick survey. What's your idea? Let's buy a milk frother for cappuccinos. I can describe it. I really want a cappuccino, blah, blah, blah. So I hit send. That's it. The idea is sent. So at any time, the system works by clicking and writing down an idea. Other people can log in and vote for my idea. Write how many dollars it would cost. Write a check, that is to write. Management can change statuses. Planned, in progress, completed. And accordingly, you can view the status of all such ideas. That's how a non-standard format can look like. Let's move on. Decision-making, coffee taste. For example, we're talking about surveys, but the formats can be different. Let me give you an example, coffee taste. Once, when I worked at Prapley, there were IT professionals working there. They complained that the coffee in the kitchen wasn't good. They came and said, listen, Mike, you understand, for us, coffee is a very important part of our work. And in a good IT company, there's very good coffee. But we have some of the cheapest. Can you do something about it? We were renting an office in a co-working space at that time. Accordingly, it was some kind of centralized purchase. Well, of course, I started to take action. Okay, people complained about the coffee, so we needed to fix it somehow. But how do we know which coffee would be better? It's impossible. You can guess, of course. To avoid guessing, we invited a supplier who brought a coffee machine, different types of coffee, and organized a tasting. People participated, then they voted, and we chose a different coffee flavor. That's how it went. So when we talk about surveys, don't just think about Google Forms. The formats can be very different. So we have a comment, great survey program. Please advise if the production staff works without PCs, in most cases without smartphones. Besides paper questionnaires, what other options are there? Yes, of course, there are options. There are now speech recognition tools, so in your case, for factory employees, at some point when the schedule allows, a robot calls, but it sounds very natural. Hello, Ivan. This is a call from such and such company. Please participate in our survey. Please tell us, on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely you are to recommend working for our company. Just give me a number. He says to everyone. The robot says, thank you. You said the number 7. Next question. And then more questions follow. And it recognizes simple text answers and numbers. Well, no, there are many solutions. Accordingly, you can choose one. The second option is less convenient, using touch-tone dialing. So it's the same, just choose number 1 if it's inconvenient for that person. They listened, chose number 1, listened. Paper questionnaires are difficult to process. Who will sing at the corporate party? In gaming, we chose the wall color this way, I explained, and about rescheduling weekends. So these are all the cases I've had. I've explained what solutions were used. And people are very happy when, firstly, it's very easy for the company. Essentially, in these decision-making options, it doesn't matter to the company which decision is made. The company doesn't lose either way. But people are satisfied that they've had an impact on something. Next, collecting feedback. After policy announcements, after training sessions, when a very popular training has ended, you need to collect feedback. Liked it, didn't like it, effective, ineffective. After the corporate party as well. By the way, in gaming, when we conducted team building activities, we always collected feedback on how effective people thought it was. There were questions. Were they able to communicate informally? Did interaction improve? And so on. Next, monitoring what's happening. I've already talked about the quarantine case, maybe about the corporate party, monitoring employee adaptation. There are many situations where it can be useful to evaluate what's happening here and now. Next is employee assessment, for example, the 360-degree competency assessment. You can't conduct it at all without questionnaires. Knowledge assessment, also a questionnaire. Manager assessment, evaluation of managers' work, similar to teamwork assessment. I apologize, I'll say that I can't talk right now. Hello, I'll call back in about 40 minutes. I can't talk now. Thank you. So that's it, teamwork assessment. So it's also well evaluated through questionnaires. Next, identifying development needs. It happens that a company needs to plan, for example, at the beginning of the year, who it will develop and how, and there's very little time. We need some quick tool to gather the needs. Of course, a questionnaire comes in handy. We sent it to everyone. If we worked out the questions well, collected, analyzed, and saw who we will teach, what we will teach, thought out what programs we will launch. Next, for information gathering, questionnaires are very often used to collect information. For example, to create a job profile. Here's such a case. When I worked at Starlight Media on the STB TV channel, we needed to implement job grading. We engaged the company Eng to conduct the grading, and we had the task of comparing salaries across several TV channels. Starlight Media includes the STB TV channel, the new ICTV channel. There are several companies there. We needed to analyze the positions in order to then compare salaries, and there were about 4,000 people working there. So it was just unrealistic to talk to everyone. The company offered a questionnaire that was sent out to everyone. About 1,000 people participated, the data was processed, and job profiles were developed in a short period of time. I mean, we couldn't have come up with any other way to gather information so quickly. Next, questionnaires are often used to describe culture as well, to gather people's understanding of the mission, vision, and values. It can also be useful for creating a competency model, for forming an employee value proposition, for gathering training expectations. Generally speaking, questionnaires will be useful in all these areas. Also, this is part of analytics, as I said, when we need to figure out some reasons, collect data, find correlations, then questionnaires will be a good solution. That is, any information we lack, we can gather quite quickly through a questionnaire. Now, the most popular surveys. These are the types: satisfaction survey, loyalty, engagement, employee experience, ENPS, burnout, departmental interactions, management performance, pulse surveys, exit interviews, and other types of surveys. We will cover these later in the course. We will go through all these types of surveys. You will get all the examples, so you will have everything in your materials: ready-made surveys, template examples, report samples, and so on. Next, let us talk about formats. Serena and I discussed what survey options are available. There are paper questionnaires. Of course, paper questionnaires are very inconvenient because someone has to enter them into a computer for processing. Well, I have had such an experience. When I first joined the CTV channel in 2010, there was doubt that people would fill out an online questionnaire. Back then, people were not very familiar with Google Forms. People did not understand what Google Forms were. People thought they would definitely be tracked on the computer. To convince as many people as possible to participate in the questionnaires, we decided to use paper surveys. We printed them out. There were about 800 people working there at the time, maybe even more, perhaps even 1,000. We printed about 1,000 questionnaires and distributed them to all workplaces. It took a lot of time, of course, but we did it. People started voting, or rather filling out questionnaires, and they dropped the completed forms into special transparent boxes. They folded them in half and dropped them in, just like in a regular vote. But the most difficult part was processing them. Fortunately, we immediately found a provider. There are companies that specialize in processing such data. We then brought in a company called 4Service. Perhaps you've heard of them. They deal with this kind of information gathering. One of their popular services is mystery shopping. They also handle questionnaire processing, so they brought in their own operators for us. The operators entered everything from the paper questionnaires into the computer, even the most complex open-ended answers written by hand, and at the same time they analyzed the data for us as well. It was very convenient, but of course it would be difficult to do it ourselves. The most popular option is probably sending online forms via email, like Google Forms. Next is voting in chats, when you need something quick and don't need to send out a formal survey. You know, in Telegram, for example, you can vote. The same can be done in Slack, for example, as a corporate messenger. Chatbots are also popular for surveys. They collect information in a conversational format, which is convenient for those who use them. And corporate social networks can be used as well. Next come the non-standard options. For example, one option I mentioned is phone surveys. Some companies do things differently, especially in factories. Some companies set up a terminal. It looks like an automated teller machine, but it doesn't dispense money. A terminal. It's essentially a computer with a keyboard, like terminals for topping up mobile phones. An employee comes up and the terminal asks them to enter their phone number. The employee enters their phone number. Consequently, the company knows who that phone number belongs to. After entering the phone number, the employee receives a text message, enters the code from the short message service, and they're logged into the system. The system says, "Hello, Ivan Petrovich, please participate in the survey." And they respond right there on the computer. When they're done, they press finish and leave. And that's it. The terminal is ready for the next person. That's one option. Another variation is when workers have a computer room, sometimes set up like a training classroom in factories, where employees can take training courses. Then everyone is invited to this, like taking a driver's license test. That is, everyone goes in, clicks through the survey, and leaves the training rooms. I've also heard about this option from students in the cafeteria, where there are tablets available. People are given tablets, and the authorization is the same everywhere, using their cell phone. So you enter your phone number, you receive an SMS, you enter the code from the SMS, and you log in as yourself. There you have it. That's another possible option. Let's move on. Paper questionnaires are used when there are no computers or when full anonymity is required, but the downside is the processing time. Sending online forms via email is a classic method. There are many tools, we'll talk about them too, not just Google Forms. Next, voting in chat rooms. Chats that support this feature make it convenient to vote on various issues. For example, right now, many people are probably planning to go to a company event. It's starting to get warmer, and what will play, volleyball or some other games, what you want, or what food to bring, how many people don't eat meat. A simple poll like this is also useful. Next, chatbots. When a company uses chatbots, it's a tool that's used for voting and surveys. In corporate social networks, There are many social network options now, like Workplace or Alternatives or some kind of portal. You can also create polls there and people can vote too. This is also convenient. Next, what's important in questions? What needs to be considered to make it good? Let me ask this question. What do you think is important, what's crucial to consider, or what needs to be done with the questions to make everything good? Share your experience. What does your experience tell you is important in surveys? Clearly formulate the question. Thank you. Yes. Make updates. Motivate participation. Set a deadline. Give advance notice. Thank you. Yes, these are good options. Does anyone else have any suggestions or ideas? What's important in questions? Well, that seems to be it. If anyone has any more, write them down. So it's important to communicate the purpose of the survey. Someone just wrote, understanding the purpose of the survey, clear questions, and definitely the results. It's important to inform employees why this is necessary. Choose the right platform. Indeed, it's very important how the questions are formulated. The length of the questionnaire also plays a role. People don't want to fill out endless forms. It's important to decide on anonymity, yes or no, not anonymous. Gather some questions about who is taking the survey. For example, whether it's an employee or a manager. Use a scale, send reminders, have a plan for processing results, give feedback to participants, and then take real action. Now, automation tools. There are many options, of course, with Google Forms being one of the most popular. Give a plus if you've ever created a questionnaire using Google Forms. Here's a quick tip. To quickly access form creation, type in your browser. A new form will open instantly. Great, I see many people. Next, there's SurveyMonkey. It has advanced analytics and ready-made templates, but it's paid. Then there's Typeform. It's nice that each question is displayed in the center of the screen, and the employee clicks next. The next one appears. It's just perceived as more visually appealing, but it's also paid. Yes, there are free packages, but it's mostly paid here. Next, there are systems like Force, which I just showed, where you can do really cool things. But besides the fact that you can create questionnaires there as good as Google Forms, Force has a unique feature that almost no one else offers. Let's put it this way, not almost, but absolutely no one else will offer it. These are anonymous questionnaires with the ability to analyze by departments. That is, the platform ensures anonymity. A person takes the survey, but it's not recorded who took it. But the results can be sorted by units, locations, departments, and so on. It's just a very beautiful display. There are many such good features there. We can also use Bittrex 24. Yes, that's right. Many such team collaboration systems can indeed be used as well. Well, another thing is that there's a loyalty index in this system, and new surveys will continue to appear. By the way, a 180-degree assessment for performance was recently added, and a 360-degree assessment will also appear in Force. The People Force system is modular, and there are discounts for students. If anyone is interested in this, contact the system. Furthermore, many other systems and automation systems have a questionnaire feature. So, in general, let's say that the questionnaire function is such a popular feature that, as you wrote about, Bittrex is now being built into many systems because everyone understands how convenient it is. There are special systems, HR-focused ones, you could say, specifically for surveys like Culture Amp. Well, the Western one is not the cheapest, so I can't say I'm ready to recommend it. And bots. Of course, chatbots are something that those who have tried them are very pleased with. So online tests, yes, there's an endless list we could mention here. Chatbots, many of those who have tried them are satisfied. I really can't remember anyone saying we tried chatbots and we didn't like them. Chatbots are easier to make than they seem. First, there are companies that can develop them for money. Well, around $1,000 if the chatbot isn't very complex. Secondly, companies hire students for development. Some people study tools independently. There are many tools like chatbots or ManyChat for Telegram. I think that's what it's called, which allows you to do it yourself. Chatbots are very simple. So here, a chatbot is just the company's willingness, I guess, to experiment. By the way, there's also a company at the link here that develops chatbots, Market Benchmarks. In surveys, you always want something to compare, something to look at. What can be said about the market? Engagement. It's known worldwide that 30% of people are engaged, loyalty or NPS. A good result starts from 15 and 35 is really good, very good. How many people fill out questionnaires? On average, worldwide, it's about 30%. There's a stable trend in small companies where the percentage is higher, and the smaller the company, the higher the percentage. And it's all the more important for the percentage to be higher. In large companies with thousands or tens of thousands of respondents, the percentage of those who fill out the survey will be lower. This is a pattern, survey length. Ideally, it should fit on one screen. If it's longer, there should be sections with transitions to the next sections. It's worth reminding 3 times, no more, no less. Fewer might not be enough, more might be annoying. And in the reminders, it's important to write a phrase like "thank you to all those who have already filled it out." Because when you send these reminders and the person thinks they've already filled it out, it irritates them. The frequency of all surveys is considered to be about once a month at most, although what's more important is how much people feel the changes. Plus one a week if it's a pulse survey. The same survey should be repeated on average once a year. That is, it shouldn't be too frequent, but rather launch a different one or pay attention to specific results. These are the well-known benchmarks. Now, a homework assignment for those already in the course. Make a list of surveys for your company for the year. You can write it out, January, February, March, and so on, and what surveys you think should be launched when, and describe why your company needs these surveys. That's the homework assignment for today. This concludes lesson number 1. Next, we'll be talking about types of surveys. And here we'll examine different types in more detail. And I'll provide ready-made examples of surveys. That is, there are about 30 ready-made surveys. In this course, you'll have approximately that many. So here are some books I can recommend. Laszlo Bock writes very good surveys. In the book Work Rules, Google itself is a big fan of surveys. Using surveys, they collected a lot of information, gather employees and evaluate certain studies, people's opinions. In general, they're big fans of this tool, and the book often mentions various types of surveys. They evaluate managers using surveys and so on. So it's a good book. For those who haven't read it yet, I recommend you do. With this, today's first introductory lesson is coming to an end. If you have any questions, feel free to write. If there are no questions, I invite you to take the course. To fully learn how to conduct surveys, prepare your first survey, and carry it out in order to be able to solve various business tasks using surveys. That's it. Thank you. You're welcome, and thank you too for coming to listen to the webinar despite it being a holiday. You're showing interest in developing yourselves. We have another webinar this week. I believe it's on Friday. Let me confirm that now. Yes, it's on Friday. Please come to that one as well. Well, if you don't have any questions, then thank you all very much. Have a good evening, everyone, and see you soon. Bye-bye.